We have a lot of people on the planet. 7 billion is a lot for the planet to carry, particularly if those 7 billion live like us.
Most of us will only see a small fraction of it in our lifetime, but Earth is only a tiny speck of life floating in the harshness of space. Only our slice of paradise isn't always kind or gentle. We've seen it all up close. Fires, floods, storms. They all threaten to wipe us off the Earth. And yet the Earth is also a great place. Maybe the only place we can live.
I think the more you understand how the planet functions, the more you're amazed at how well it functions. You know, this really is a wonderful place. And the more you understand it, the more you realize that maintaining it as a wonderful place is not a simple thing to do.
Not simple or easy. Because just as Earth can be dangerous and frightening to us, we're constantly changing the Earth simply by living on it.
It's very clear that we're going to have a footprint on the planet. I know there are still people who would like to say, no, we can live on the planet without really affecting the planet. That's not true. I think we are going to change climate regardless of the fuels we use. We're going to change the planet's surface regardless of what we do, because we have to.
So far, Earth appears able to support 7 billion people, maybe even more. But somewhere there's a limit to the food, water, and land necessary to keep that many of us alive. The question is, do we reach what experts call sustainability in a good way or painfully? Through disease, starvation, war.
Personally, I think we're smart enough and we're sophisticated enough and we have enough technology to get there elegantly. But there's no guarantee of that.
For instance, climate change can lead to large numbers of people needing to move away from rising seas.
And we know what happens when you bring a lot of people together that are desperate, that are poor. These are breeding grounds for extremists. And we need to be very careful about that. It's the reason why the Pentagon spends a lot of money on climate change.
The Earth is crowded, and we're living on it longer. Ancient life expectancy is difficult to measure. Life was often short and hard. Before 1800, we lived between 20 and 30 years. By the 1850s, the average life expectancy was up to a little less than 40 years. By the 21st century, that increased to 67 years globally, and nearly 80 in developed countries like the United States. All of which means we're healthier and better able to cure ourselves when we get sick.
It wasn't long ago, in 1960s, 1970s, there was a real genuine thought that we could eradicate infectious disease, essentially from the planet.
But our brushes with Ebola and measles recently made it clear that we're still vulnerable.
I think that the one mistake that humankind tends to make throughout history, sort of a lack of humility when we approach these problems, particularly as they relate to health.
We believe we're invincible. We believe in technology. We talk about the importance of believing in ourselves. People have also proven very willing to believe in a higher power, and if not equally willing, to disagree about it.
Organized religion both has contributed to positive things for human beings as well as contributed to conflict and strife.
When we come back, we'll talk about one of the most fascinating mysteries in the history of humanity, the search for God.
Jesus, everything revolves around you.
Most Americans and billions of others around the world believe in one God, just not always the same God. Why?
There's not a simple answer to that question, although people have tried to give simple answers to that question.
It's hard to find a neighborhood anywhere without a place of worship.
Good morning.
Right around the next corner.
There was a thesis, a secularization thesis, that was prominent for a time in the later part of the 20th century, which said, yes, as we're entering the modern era, we're becoming more and more modern, religion is going to be on the decline. We're not going to need religion anymore. We have science, we have more secure political systems, ostensibly at that time, right? So religion's going to wither away. And in fact, in the 21st century, we see that's not the case. That hasn't happened. Religion isn't going away, but instead religion is still thriving, it's still going strong.
Strong, even in America, a land where we often measure happiness and peace in dollars and cents.
The The United States still has one of the highest rates of religious participation among Western industrialized nations in the world. That's a product of our own unique heritage as a country.
Of course, not everyone believes in God. Atheism is a strong belief system of its own, and atheists' beliefs and lack of God depend on inconsistencies in religious stories. While the Christian belief in a virgin birth and resurrection from the dead, for instance, requires faith in something that can't be proven using science. The question then becomes, what explains the willingness of believers to believe whatever they believe?
I think, again, we don't want to say there's one primary reason why people profess a faith. I think that if we look, we need to take each person case by case, and when you look closely at a person, you'll come up with a lot of different things.
A lot of religions will claim, and their followers will attest, that they provide a sense of purpose in a kind of often confusing and painful existence.
One of the great ironies of religious belief is that in addition to providing meaning and purpose, it also creates confusion and pain, or worse.
Flames exploded out the front of the World Trade Center.
9/11 and ISIS are the most recent examples of radical Islam, leading to shocking and barbaric behavior.
We have to ask ourselves, what is the threat of ISIS coming from? Does it come from the fact that those militants, those extremists, are Muslim? Clearly not. Does it come from the fact that they're brown skinned? That's obviously not the case. It comes from their ideology. And so the enemy for the United States is not Muslim. It's not Arab. It's not brown skinned people. It's the ideology of ISIS, which is to impose its will on other people.
My own sort of experience with this is that it's never really just religion that causes people to become intolerant. It's often politics of some sort or other.
Politics and religion, war and peace. The question is, can we ever stop fighting about God?
The short answer is yes. I even see it in the fairly near future. As humans evolve and get to know themselves better and understand what it's like to be human, then humans will eventually not fight over religion.
If there is one thing people have proven again and again throughout history, is that we really like to disagree with each other about politics, about religion, and especially about each other.
Men and women, young and old, black and white, rich and poor. People are different.
People have a natural desire to categorize. We're categorizing machines. That's how we make sense of the world.
We call it diversity, gender, skin color, language, culture. All these differences make the world an interesting place. But those same interesting differences can somehow become a bad thing.
The question of why does skin color cause so many problems? The answer is because humans make those categorizations and then use those categorizations to create categories of people who receive certain rights or are denied certain rights, who are at the top of the socioeconomic ladder or at the bottom.
And if you don't do something about it, we will have no alternative.
It has happened again and again throughout history. One of our most vivid and painful examples is nearly 250 years of American slavery that ended only after a civil war that almost destroyed the country. It did not end the difficulties created by our differences.
Of course, we don't have the buying and selling of people based on their skin color in the United States anymore. We don't have legally segregated schools, but racism has morphed, it's changed, and it's reappeared, as we can see in the events of the past few months.
In 2014, the deaths of Michael Brown in Ferguson and Eric Garner in New York brought the national conversation about differences back to the top of the list.
I do think a dialogue needs to occur.
And it has not been an easy conversation.
It illustrates that some of us really don't respect each other, really don't value each other. And it illuminates it more than anything, because it's been going on.
Many people see the problem in terms of lack of understanding, because people of different colors and different backgrounds often don't understand each other, which makes communicating awkward but critical.
Because again, people are being made uncomfortable, which is a good thing. to make people uncomfortable because that's how we have changed.
Rather than thinking about racism in terms of a ladder in which we climb ever higher to levels where racism is less and less reduced, we should think about racism as a river that meanders and flows. It intensifies at certain moments, and this may be one of those moments.
But these moments of difficulty, when we see the same event and disagree what happened and what it means, can also be opportunities to learn about each other and why we struggle to get along.
Solving all of these problems, disagreements about religion, about skin color, about how to take care of our planet, about how to get technology to work for and not against us, won't be easy.
Are we moving toward a future filled with peace or conflict? Will we increase our understanding of each other or argue about our differences instead? Will a crowded planet last forever? We'll be back right after this with the conclusion of the People Planet.
Yeah, humans, we're a tricky thing.
There's greed, there's favoritism, there's envy, there's fear.
Race is not a divisive issue. Racism is.
I think that the one mistake that humankind tends to make throughout history is a lack of humility.
We have Netflix. That makes things much easier.
Technology's already got away from us.
I don't think there's anything inherent about religion that produces conflict. Neither is there anything inherent about religion that produces peacefulness and tranquility and harmony.
People are being made uncomfortable, which is a good thing, to make people uncomfortable because that's how we have changed.
And I'm also convinced that there's a moral compass in us and that we want to leave the world a better place for our kids.